When you're standing in front of a crowd and the next track has to land perfectly, the last thing you want is a mixer that feels like a compromise. I'm going to walk through the RANE DJ70 and try to give you a clear picture of whether it actually delivers on the promises you hear in the ads, or if you'd be better off spending that money somewhere else. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been watching a lot of forums, reading the few reviews that exist, and even listening to a handful of sets where people have thrown the 70 into their rigs. What keeps showing up is a mix of excitement about the new fader tech and some nervousness about how it integrates with the rest of a Serato-based setup. That tension is real. Mixers sit at the heart of every performance, so buying the wrong one can feel like you're buying a ticket to a bad night, not just a piece of gear. First, who is this mixer really built for? If you already run a 2-channel Serato stack and you like to layer loops, trigger samples, and add live effects on the fly, the 70 is speaking directly to you. The 16 Akai M Peak-style pads sit right where you'd expect them, and they're dual-layer, which means you can assign a different sample or cue point to each layer without digging through menus. For a bedroom DJ who wants to start experimenting with live remixing, those pads are a genuine time saver. They let you drop a vocal chop or a drum loop right when the crowd's energy peaks, without having to pause the set. On the flip side, if you're a traditional club DJ who spins mostly with vinyl or CDJs and only occasionally dips into the effects pool, the extra pad surface might feel like overkill. The learning curve isn't steep, but you'll still need to spend a few rehearsal hours to map the pads to the parts of your set you actually use. Those hours could be spent practicing transitions, which is where many DJs feel the most value. Now let's talk about the 3 4 contactless faders. RANE's marketing calls them ultra-light and patented, and what that translates to in practice is a noticeably smoother glide compared to a standard brushed aluminum fader. In a live setting, that smoothness means you can do micro-adjustments on a filter sweep or a volume fade without the fader catching or feeling gritty. I heard a set where the DJ was doing a slow, atmospheric build, and the fader never hesitated, keeping the energy steady even as the crowd grew restless. For anyone who relies on precise, repeated sweeps, think classic house or techno, those faders can actually become a subtle performance edge. But there's a hidden trade-off. Because the faders are contactless, they're a bit more sensitive to dust and sweat. In a sweaty club environment, a few stray drops can make the fader feel a little less crisp until you give it a quick wipe. It's not a failure, just a maintenance note that you have to keep in mind if you plan to use the mixer night after night in hot venues. The internal Flex FX engines are another point worth dissecting. 6 dual-post fader effects sound like a lot, and they are. In a typical set, I found myself using the delay and reverb on the vocal track, the filter on a bass line, and the instant double to create a quick hype moment. The fact that the effects sit post-fader means they stay in sync with the channel's volume changes, which helps keep the mix sounding cohesive. However, the UI for selecting and tweaking those effects isn't as visual as some newer mixers that have dedicated LCD screens for each effect. You have to rely on the jog wheel and the LED ring, which can feel a little clunky when you're trying to dial in a precise decay time while the crowd is waiting for the next beat. If you already own a Serato DJ Pro license, the 70 integrates without a hitch. The pad mapping is automatically recognized, and the 3 rotary FX paddles on the left side give you quick access to the most used parameters. For someone who spends a lot of time in the software, that plug-and-play feel is a big win. If you're on a different platform, Rekordbox, Traktor, or Virtual DJ, you'll run into compatibility issues because the pad layout and the FX routing are hardwired to Serato. That's a deal breaker for anyone not fully committed to the Serato ecosystem. Let's talk money. The 70 sits in a price bracket where you're also looking at mixers that either have more channels or a more established reputation, like the Pioneer DJMS9 or the Allen and Heath Zone 96. Those units often come with a larger suite of effects or additional input options, but they also cost considerably more. The 70 sweet spot is that it gives you a high-end fader feel and a full pad suite at a price that a serious hobbyist can justify. If you're buying your first serious mixer and you're